And we're recording. All right, welcome everybody to all
Hello.
viewers and listeners. Welcome to this conversation with Monsieur Abdul-Rehman Mohamed Issa and Monsieur Mandel Lum. Thank you so much, guys, for coming today. For those who don't know me, my name is Pierre-Etienne. I'm the co-founder of the Healing Studio Online. And the Healing Studio Online is a platform that was established in 2020 to promote connection, to promote empowerment, to build a community of self-healers, to remind people of their innate ability to heal and to self-regulate. And also as a reminder that we do that so much better when we don't do that alone. Nobody can do it for you, but you can't do it alone, right? So the idea of coming together for self-healing and self-empowerment, right? This is what the Healing Studio Online is about. And so today I'm thrilled and I'm thankful and I'm grateful to have again, Abdul-Rehman and Mandel, who are instructors, breathwork instructors, among other things, providing services on the Healing Studio Online. So as we start this, and we thought we'd have a little bit of a conversation here around some of the offerings, the services, and the spaces that you create on the Healing Studio Online. And more specifically, today the conversation is around breathwork for BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So let's start there. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's start maybe with a brief introduction. Like, who are you? What's your background? And what's your relationship with breathwork? Right, let's start there.
Sure.
Who wants to go?
Love it.
Abdul, you wanna?
I can go. I can start us off. Hello, everybody at home. I'm Abdul-Rehman. You can call me Abdul. I am a career educator. I was a special education teacher for a long time before becoming an administrator. I'm currently the co-principal of a school in East Hollywood. I'm also an adjunct professor, so I teach at the college level as well. I came to breathwork as first a healing tool for myself. When I was not in a good place, I was lucky enough to discover breathwork a couple of years ago, and it really helped me to make sense of what was going on in my life. It helped me, and I've learned now that it really helped me regulate my nervous system, and it really helped me get into the parasympathetic response because there was trauma that I was dealing with. There was trauma that was locked in my physiology. And breathwork, this act of breathing in and out through the mouth really was profoundly transformative for me. And as I started to heal, I realized that this was a profoundly transforming modality of healing for others. And so I wanted to bring this to my context. So I have learned a bunch of different breathwork modalities to use and to research at the school level with students who have trauma. And we're 2020 in America. Everyone has trauma, right? Collective, generational, it's there. It's locked in our bodies. And this is a tool that helps us really reprocess and get through a lot of that. So that's where I'm at. I'm hoping to get into a doctoral program so I can do some research on it. I come to it though specifically from a point where this healed me first, and I saw the impact that it had on others. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you for sharing. Mandel, what about you?
Yeah. I myself, I'm Mandel, and I am an artist and a animator, and I am also a breathwork facilitator in Los Angeles, in Tongva Nation here. And for me, breathwork has always been, it's been the same for me as well. It was a tool for my own healing. And I found breathwork through another studio out in New York City, Maha Rose. And at the time, I felt like I just wanted to try something new. It was very exploratory for me. And at the time I was also feeling a little loneliness, New York City being a big city, and I didn't know very many people. So it felt kind of right for me to kind of get into this new modality as a ways for exploration. And then a few years back, there was an event that happened in my hometown. That was the Ghost Ship Fire, the Ghost Ship warehouse fire, where almost 30, a little more than 30 people actually perished in that warehouse. That brought back a lot of fire trauma for me. Around that time, I just didn't know how to resolve the emotions that were inside my heart. And I realized that, through breath work, through practicing breath work and, experiencing what was going on in my body, I actually discovered that there was a direct connection to fire trauma that I had as a child, because I lived through the 1991 Oakland Hills fire that basically wiped out my neighborhood when I was a kid. And I don't have very many memories of that, but I know by my experiences through breathwork that trauma carried on to my present day. And I needed to heal that, and through breathwork I actually managed to do that. So I see how breathwork can be an amazing tool for trauma, and I know that it's an amazing tool for healing racial and ancestral trauma as well. So that's what I want to bring to people. That's what I want to bring to to the public, to people's own healing journeys. So that's where I am these days. I'm doing that.
Awesome. So I mean, you guys both mentioned ancestral trauma, historical trauma, intergenerational trauma. Maybe let's take a few moments to talk about that, because I feel like this is not. We slowly, learning more and more about it. Research is slowly catching up about, what it is, the reality of so many people would say, but I'm not that stressed out. Yeah, but it's like generations and generations of things that are being carried, and so here, how does that influence people? What is, intergenerational trauma? What is historical trauma? And how do you think that plays nowadays, like in 2020, because the way I see it as a practitioner, I see a lot of that stuff coming up because people are being triggered, and not that stuff was not there before. You know what I mean? Like, it was getting in the way of people's being healthy, people having, healthy relationships, dysregulating their nervous system. But it seems that lately, 2020, we were talking about it a few moments ago before we started the interview, that it is a transformational year. And it seems that lots is coming up for people. So what do you think, how intergenerational trauma is playing a role today for people, and more specifically for brothers and sisters of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color?
Yeah. We're back at another racial reckoning point in America. I mean, we've repeated this before. There's enough research out there that supports that trauma is passed down. And Resmaa Menakem's book is so powerful, My Grandmother's Hands, where he speaks about the trauma in Black and brown bodies, the trauma that white bodies hold, right, from the Middle Ages and all of the violence that was perpetrated upon each other, to the police bodies, right, and the trauma that they hold. I don't think we can ignore the fact today in America that we have such a legacy and history of racism, discrimination, pain, and sorrow. And for us to be alive, our ancestors have had to endure untold amounts of stress and trauma on their nervous systems that has been passed down, and it's been learned subconsciously, consciously. That's where we're at. We're here. This is why I think when we're talking about breathwork specifically for people of color, for Black, Indigenous people of color, healing spaces have not traditionally been open for people of color. Yoga, breathwork, typically when we go to trainings for breathwork, I don't want to speak for Mandel, but I think we're probably the 2 or 3 people of color that are going in training. There may be 1 or 2 others. This is not something that has been given to people in marginalized communities, people that really need it. It's been something that's sort of been affluent and been something that's accessible for people who have somewhat of a racial inroad to it. And I think we have really, as we've been doing this for BIPOCs, we've really realized that the space needs to exist for people. And you know, it's so interesting that we're finding ourselves here in this time right now. I'm reading this book by Dr. Bettina Love called it's about abolitionist teaching, and she starts the book and she says, "We who are dark, what do we want? What is the thing we're after? And we want to be Americans, full-fledged Americans with all the rights of other American citizens. But is that all? Do we want simply to be Americans? Once in a while, through all of us, there flashes some clairvoyance, some clear idea of what America really is. We who are dark can see America in a way that white Americans cannot. And seeing our country thus, are we satisfied with its present goals and ideals?" And it's a quote by W.E.B. Du Bois. And I think what she's speaking to is that we as people of color have been surviving for a long time, and we want to thrive. And we know that America is not just at this point. America is not equitable. America has not liberated. And we have to provide these spaces so that we can do the healing ourselves and then go out into our communities and spread some of that healing, because we want to thrive.
Mandel, any thoughts?
Yeah.
Like, has your experience in healing spaces been similar to Abdul-Rahman's?
Yeah, it has been. And I mean, if you can probably see it in almost every you know, yoga class, meditation workshop, you look around and you'll notice that there's maybe 10 to 20%, you know, almost every time that I've been somewhere, it's always been maximum 20% people of color. And the only times where it's more than that is when the space is being held for people of color. It's you know, it's I think it's a remnant of the way that capitalism works and the way that capitalism you know, plays out in this country, where the people that have the money typically go for these services that cost money. And more often than not, that's you know, people of Caucasian descent, or people who are, you know, white adjacent. I think there's a lot of talk about that these days. So, where I come from, personally, on the subject of race, I myself am a 2.5 generation Chinese American. You know, I did my own ancestry DNA test, and I'm pretty Chinese. It's like like 1% not Chinese, but for me, my own personal heritage comes from a lot of immigration. I was looking back at my father's side of the family, and I could actually see back. There's records of up to about 6 generations of men who have all traveled from China to America to actually, you know, to make money or do a job or do, you know, to trade or something, and then they would return back to China and then have a child, and then their child would do the same. You know, my own personal line, there's a lot of immigration that happens, not in specifically immigration to America. And I feel like, you know, there's so much to be said about immigration in America today, that there's, you know, so many people in this country who feel like they belong yet don't, that they're not accepted, but at the same time do find this place and call it their home. um, and I think the way that that connects to breathwork, the way that I see the whole thing come together, is that we are at most at home in our own bodies. No matter where we are in the world, no matter who we are, where we came from, the most grounding thing is to find home in our own bodies. And to me, that's where breathwork connects the whole idea. That's where it's so important. And that's why right now I feel like it's the most important thing that I can do to bring healing to my community. Yeah.
There's so much to what you guys are mentioning right now, like, you know, just in terms of coming home, in terms of restoring a sense of safety. Um, and again, acknowledging that, yeah, right, like most healing spaces, quote unquote, are white. And I know some, you know, some people have asked before, like, you know, why just BIPOC space? And well, and my short answer was like, because everything else is already for white folks. You know what I mean? Like, it's already designed for white folks. And like, as you said, Mandel, and you know, the important reminder is that unless we're carving out that space, you know, that space is going to be whitewashed, right, to a certain extent. And so here it's not an idea of excluding people, rather than being able to make space for people to heal, and to find and to reclaim a sense of safety. So what does that look like? Let's, when you know, somebody who's watching this interview was like, yeah, sure, like, why not? What does that look like? What is a breath like? What is a breathwork session like with you guys? How does that work?
Yeah, I think Mandel and I both bring a lot of other modalities into play. So our breathwork session doesn't start with breathwork. We really try to foster that sense of home and safety by doing a lot of grounding. We've done that through tapping, qigong, affirmations, mantras. In person, there's Reiki. We try to bring everything that we have to bear and really ease people into the breathwork session, where they're going to go home, where they're going to potentially confront father wounds or racial justice wounds, or maybe just have a relaxing time. But typically our sessions run like an hour and a half to 2 hours, where we do a lot of grounding and settling, some somatics. Then we do this active breathing meditation. When Mandel does it, he does this beautiful guided meditation along with it, where really people are transported to a place where they can really do the deep healing consciously, and really intentionally. But our sessions are so much more than just breath work. Breath work itself is just a 3-part breath of breathing into the belly, up to the chest, and out while you're lying down. We really, on both sides, in the beginning and the end, and as we process, allow for more growth and expansion. And we always end our sessions with a lot of process and debrief, right? Give people time to integrate, to drink tea, to journal. And then we come together, and like we typically wrap up our sessions and then are talking for probably 20 minutes to half hour after them, because people have so much that comes up. And we're carrying so much these days that really the weight of it needs to come out. And so our sessions really are about these therapeutic elements that are all based on bringing you back to the body and back to the breath and back to home, and enabling you to have an experience where you could fall asleep, you could have something profound, but you're taking that time, that intentional time for yourself in a group of people of color where you don't get to during the day. And I think more than anything, like it's an act of self-care and self-love and self-compassion, because you're setting aside this amount of time for yourself and for your experience.
And here mentioning again that process, because we're working on reclaiming safety, obviously that process is invitational, right? I want to make it clear to people that some people will join we'll do the practice, we'll kind of like, you know, open the chest and the heart and start to share. And some people will just come and practice and just take some time to think about it and take some time
Yeah.
to see how that feels into their body. Am I ready? Let's remember that the stress, right, is a defensive mechanism. And it's really important to, like, that's why you know, I have tremendous amount of respect for you guys and what you're doing and how you're holding that space, because saying, where, you know, come wherever you are in this journey, you know, join us in that space and see what's the next step for you. What about that awesome guided imagery? You want to tell us a little bit more about the inner shrine, Mandel?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little about that. So, I mean, every person does breathwork a little differently, and you know, Abdul-Rehman, you know, he leads a very beautiful space that just gets you so grounded and so connected to your breath and to your body. What I personally like to do with breathwork is a little bit different, just because breathwork is already such a subjective experience. It's all about what's going on inside your head. For me, I love using this imagery of the inner shrine. And, you know, I talk about home. This is literally the home that you build for yourself in your head. It's a metaphor, but it, you know, it can be kind of a literal thing that it's a palace. It's a mind palace that you can decide to go to. Um, and, you know, I use this imagery as a way to um, connect with this idea that I've been playing around with for years now, is that every single person that you've ever met, every single loved one, hated one, person that passed away, person that you've passed on the street, every single person lives on inside you. You share, that person is part of you from the moment that they meet you. And in that way, you can actually have conversations with that person. You can, you know, that person can haunt you sometimes. Like, I definitely know that my middle school and high school bullies still haunt me, because they're always in, you know, they're in the back of my head. They're still talking to me, even though I haven't seen them in 20 odd years, even though I don't even know what they're up to. They may not be even in this country anymore, but they're still speaking. You know, they still have something to say. um, and so with this idea of the inner shrine, all of these different, you know, personalities, whether it be your inner child, or your long lost grandmother, all of these people will, you know, they can have the opportunity to pass along messages, to show you love, for you to show them love, for there to be some kind of reciprocation there. um, it becomes a safe space for those relationships to transform you, to let them um, give you, you know, to let them give you truth, for them to protect you, for you to protect them. Oftentimes I feel like I really need to work with my inner child to make him feel like he's more at home in this world, and that's part of the journey. um, that all that's happening, you know, like in the back of your mind while you're doing the breath work. And I feel like the breath work, it allows you to tap into that. But that's just the way that I do it, you know. And of course, Abdul-Rehman, he's got his own flavor. um, and you know, I feel like in that way we're not necessarily working with racial trauma. We're not necessarily working with, you know, big D discrimination. We're dealing with all of the little things that make you who you are. We're dealing with, you know, your own personal trauma. We're dealing with, you know, feelings of abandonment. We're dealing with feelings of unworthiness. We're dealing with all of the little things that make you who you are. But with that said, you know, when we create this container, we all heal together. And I think that's what creates this awesome sense of community and this awesome sense of communal healing. um, and then, you know, and then all kinds of magic can happen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any message here before you guys tell us a bit more about where we can find you, or when people can find you? If, let's say, somebody's listening, they've never they've never attended a session of yours, what would you tell them? Any word of advice, anything you'd like to share with them?
I'll start. Breath work. The way I see it, breath work, there can be so much there for you. It's such a powerful exploratory tool for you to dig into how you feel in your body, what the thoughts that are in your head, for you to dig into those things. But at the same time, it's a journey. It's work. They call it breath work. This isn't breath sleep. Yeah. Although sometimes you do end up sleeping. But it can be a lot of work to dig deep, because when you're breathing, a lot of these emotions, they'll bubble up to the surface, stuff that you haven't felt in a long time, perhaps. And these emotions, these sensations, these feelings, they can be kind of overwhelming. Not everybody is quite ready for it sometimes. But if you feel like you're working on yourself, if you want to dive a little deeper, if you want to rediscover or uncover certain parts of what make you fundamentally you, breath work is an amazing tool. And maybe it's a gateway to something far deeper. But I definitely feel like, it's not for the faint of heart. You can really get into some very powerful emotions. But with that said, it's an amazing tool. I think all three of us can affirm that.
Absolutely. It's such a supreme act of self-love and self-care. And it is a practice, much like a yoga, where the more you do it, the easier it'll become, the more flexible and expansive you'll be, the more able to explore yourself you'll be able to be. I really encourage people, and kind of like what Mandel was saying, like, when you're ready, and you'll find it. We're easy to find through the Healing Studio, through social media. And we're here whenever you're ready to go on that journey, because it's something I cannot recommend highly enough. Like, it's something that really has changed my life in a profound way. And I hope that everybody else can have a chance to feel this level of healing. It's such a deep, deep healing. So yeah, come and join us.
Yeah.
I second that. I third that. This is, such a powerful tool. I see breath work as a I resonate what you said, this supreme act of self-love, this entry point, that portal, to kind of get out of that monkey brain, that monkey mind, and really come to the truth of you, right? To the core. And I feel like you guys are really holding that space in a very gentle, respectful way. And while people can go very deep, I also want to stress the importance also of moving at your own pace, because I know I've been a little over ambitious in the past, and it was all ego based, and it was like, yeah, let me get this done, and that was not necessarily a beneficial experience, because I ended up getting overwhelmed. And when I realized that, oh, I need to heal at my own pace, let me engage with that process, with my breath, with my body at a pace that feels right, that feels manageable, then that's when the magic happens. So where your contact details on the Healing Studio online, but if you don't mind, guys, mentioning your maybe your handle, Instagram, wherever, how can we find you? Mandel.
Well, yeah, you can find me, my practice. I have yet to create a website, but you can find me on Instagram. I've got the whole Instagram thing down. I can be found at breathing_QI. Breathing chi. I use the term chi because it is, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of similarities between qigong and with breath work. It's a lot of the same sort of things. The energy is, of course, the energy of the breath. And I feel like, qigong and this breath work, which actually comes from pranayama breath work, pranayama yoga, I mean, which comes from the Hindu traditions, they have so many things in common. And I feel like those two ideas kind of work really well together. But you can find me at breathing_QI.
Abdul-Rehman,
Awesome.
what about you?
And I'm at Abdul M Issa, so at ABDULMISSA on Instagram, and also Issa Heartspace is our website. My wife and I have started our own website, so at Issa ISSA Heartspace. So looking forward, hope to connect with you, and then you can always find us on Facebook or other social media, and we're always ready. We do. We do breathwork weekly and we do BIPOC breathwork monthly. So we're around.
Exactly, right? So check us out. Go to thehealingstudioonline.com. Look at the schedule. I do believe shortly after this interview, you guys have an upcoming session soon. So check out the schedule. Join us. This is donation-based. Like nobody's turned away for lack of funds. And I want to say at the same time, remember that there are practitioners putting work and energy into it. So donations are very much appreciated and they go to our practitioners. On that note, guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Sending love to everybody. We'll see you guys on the other side.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.